Hello, welcome to Unit 3 of our course. Unit 3 focuses on the French Revolution and the Napoleonic era. The French Revolution began approximately 6 years after the end of the American Revolution in 1789. In the French Revolution, the people of France, or at least a significant portion of the population, rose up in rebellion against their king, Louis XVI. Why did the rebellion take place? The people of France had been suffering greatly. There had been poor harvests in the preceding years, taxes were quite high, the price of bread had become out of the reach of the ordinary person, and famine was setting in, particularly in urban areas. Meanwhile, the nobility and the monarchy continued to live in luxury, demonstrating often little concern for the ordinary people, if you will, of France. This stirred great animosity and discontent. And of course, the American Revolution stood as an example of a rebellion against a king. In 1789, the revolution begins. And one of the interesting spokespersons for the revolution was a Roman Catholic priest named Abbé Emmanuel Sieyès. I say that he's an interesting spokesperson because he was not a common man, if you will. In France, there were three estates or social classes. The first estate was the priesthood of the Roman Catholic Church. The second estate were the nobility. And the third estate included everyone else. So as a member of the first estate, Abbé Emmanuel Sieyès was among the privileged classes of France. Yet he argued that the social system in France was unjust. In a document entitled What is the Third Estate?, Abbé Emmanuel Sieyès argued that the Third Estate, the ordinary men and women of France, were France, that they performed all of the productive labor for France, and that they should play a large role in governing the nation of France. Under the monarchy, the Third Estate really had no say in governing France. They had no political power. Ultimately, the people of France would rise up in rebellion. They would seize control of the state and imprison their king and queen, Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. The king and queen of France would ultimately be sentenced to death and beheaded by the French revolutionaries. For a time, France was ruled by the National Assembly in a somewhat democratic process. However, disorder reigned in France. There were multiple factions competing for power. You had the monarchists, people who wanted to restore the monarchy and the authority of the Catholic Church. You had a group of radicals known as the Jacobins, who wanted to institute full democracy in France, essentially. And then you had people who fell in between those two extremes. And civil war raged across France as a result. During this period of civil war in France, ultimately a military leader, Napoleon Bonaparte, would emerge to assume power. Napoleon Bonaparte was an unlikely candidate for power. He was not even French. He was born on the island of Corsica. France conquered Corsica when Napoleon was an infant, and Corsica therefore became a part of France. But French was not Napoleon's native language. As a youth, Napoleon was sent to boarding school in France by his parents, and he actually hated France in his youth. Napoleon became an officer in the French army, but there was no prospect under the monarchy that he would ever be promoted to high rank, because he wasn't from the ranks of the French nobility. When the revolution occurred, though, most of the high-ranking French officers supported the monarchy and fled the country, and Napoleon was able to be promoted rather quickly. In his 20s, he became a general. Um, Napoleon Bonaparte would go on to great military success and ultimately to declare himself Emperor of France. Some argue that Napoleon was the champion of the revolution. Others argue that he destroyed the revolution by essentially taking on the powers of king for himself. I look forward to working with you during this week.